When cutting a new material or doing a cut for the first time, it's worth doing a test cut. So I'll just talk you through some pointers and tips here. I'll come back to the blade in just a moment. The first thing I'd like to show you though is the quick reference guide. This has a list of commonly used materials that we're likely to cut with our machines, together with the mat that you will need to use, and also the blade depth and pressure settings, and we covered a brief idea of what these are about on the previous video. So for the cardstock that I'm using, which is an 80 or 216 GSM, the recommended settings are a blade depth of 4 and a pressure of 0. To set my blade up, first I'll remove the protective cap. Then I'll make sure that blade is set all the way closed to number 12. And then I will turn it until I reach the recommended blade setting of 4. Next, I'll drop that into the blade carriage and push down the locking lever to secure that in place. Next, I'll remove the protective cover from my sticky mat and position a piece of scrap cardstock, the same weight that I'm going to be cutting, onto my cutting mat towards the bottom edge. And don't forget, you can use your spatula to help make sure that's smoothed down all over and has good adhesion so that it sticks in place while cutting. To load the mat into the machine, position the leading edge under the rollers and then press the load mat button. Once that's set in place, we can load up a test pattern to cut. Test patterns are located in the pattern library and they're accessed through the button at the top marked Test. There are 4 different things that we can try out. I'll choose a square. It's quite tiny, so you may not see it on screen here, so it's worth having a play at home just to make sure you can see what's going on. I will drag this to the bottom edge of the mat, roughly to where my cardstock is, and about an inch in from each edge. Tap OK, and then from the choices of Draw and Cut, select Cut, and then press the Start and Stop button. Once the operation is complete, the machine will tell you it has finished cutting. Just tap OK to acknowledge that message. Then lift up the edge of your cardstock to see if your cut has been successful. Here I can see that mine was successful. It cut through the cardstock perfectly and cleanly and left little marks on the mat. So I now know that's the perfect settings for this type of cardstock. If you need to change the settings at any point during the testing phase, you can access it through the Tools icon or the Settings menu, and you can change any of the speed or pressure settings with the plus or minus icons. You will then of course want to do a second test cut, and don't forget to move your shape to a new area of your cardstock or material. If you're unsure whether to change the pressure or the depth first, here are a couple of quick tips. Start by increasing the pressure. Do a test cut with the increased pressure of 1, then a test cut increasing the pressure to 2. If you don't achieve a clean cut after this, then decrease your pressure back down to the original setting and then increase your blade depth by half. Repeat that process until you have achieved a decent cut, or if you have increased your blade depth by 2 or more, it might be worth you checking your blade. So just to repeat, pressure first, and then return to the original setting with your pressure and increase your blade depth. And then you're repeating that until you get a decent cut. Once you have achieved your decent cut, don't forget to unload your mat, return the protective cover to the mat, close up your machine, and then return to the home screen ready to start your next project.